Missiles are falling on Dubai. Not in some distant conflict zone, not somewhere you can comfortably watch from a screen. Right there, over the skyline that represents the ambition of an entire region. And this moment changes everything we thought we understood about what this war actually is. Let me be clear about what just happened, because the mainstream coverage is missing the bigger picture entirely. Iran did not just fire missiles at Israel. Iran fired missiles at Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, and Kuwait, at U.S. military bases hosting thousands of American troops, at the heart of Gulf Arab power. And that distinction matters more than almost anything else being discussed right now, because this is no longer a conflict between two nations. This is Iran sending a message to every Arab government that chose American partnership over regional solidarity. And that message arrived with a warhead attached. So let us walk through exactly what happened, who it affects, and why the consequences ripple far beyond anything the headlines are capturing. First, the targets themselves. U.S. military installations across the Gulf became strike zones overnight. Bahrain hosts the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet. Qatar is home to al-Udeid Air Base, one of the largest American military presences in the entire Middle East.
All American bases in the Middle East are either destroyed or under attack. This is footage from al-Udeid, the biggest base in the Middle East, and it has been blown up in flames from Iranian missiles. This air base in Iraq is in flames and under attack right now from Iraqi militias. In Kuwait, American air defenses are non-existent as Iranian drones are slamming into it every hour. Here in Bahrain, an American base hit again with an Iranian missile. It now appears also that the naval base in Bahrain has been completely destroyed. This strike right here is the reason that the Americans on that radar blowing up cannot detect anything. This was the biggest radar in the Middle East for U.S. bases. There are only a few American defense systems left, as you can see right here, with everything else being relocated to Israel to protect them instead. The U.S. has probably a day or two left of air defenses before they are completely overrun. It's already been confirmed in Bahrain, all American bases are out of air defenses, as you see smoke still rising on the naval one.
The UAE and Kuwait host thousands of additional troops and critical infrastructure. These are not symbolic targets. Hitting them is a direct military confrontation with the United States, wrapped inside the language of regional retaliation. Iran is daring Washington to respond, while simultaneously threatening every Gulf monarchy that thought neutrality could protect them. What makes this even more extraordinary is the diplomatic shockwave coming from an unexpected direction. Syria, a nation that maintained close ties with Iran for decades, publicly condemned the strikes on Gulf monarchies. Think about what that means. When Syria is distancing itself from Iranian military action, the coalition that sustained Iran's regional influence is visibly fracturing. This is not a small diplomatic footnote. This is a realignment happening in real time under fire. And then there is the airspace. Airports across the Middle East went dark. Thousands of flights canceled. The aerial corridors that connect Europe to Asia, that fuel the tourism economies of Dubai and Abu Dhabi, that carry cargo and commerce and people, suddenly became dangerous. 5-star resorts watching debris fall from the sky is not just a dramatic image. It is the economic nervous system of the Gulf being severed, even temporarily, with consequences that will compound for months. Now let us talk about the impossible position the Gulf states find themselves in. These governments spent years cultivating a careful neutrality. They normalized relations with Israel through the Abraham Accords. They hosted American forces. They maintained back-channel communications with Tehran. They believed that economic integration and diplomatic balance could insulate them from the violence surrounding them. Tonight, missiles made that calculation obsolete. There is no neutral ground when the ground itself is being targeted. And here is the psychological dimension that should not be overlooked. These are wealthy, stable, globally connected nations. Their populations include millions of expatriates from every corner of the world. The image of Dubai under missile threat does not just shake stock markets. It shakes the foundational belief that the Gulf was different, that money and modernization and strategic positioning had bought a kind of security that other regional nations never achieved. That belief is now deeply uncertain. But we cannot talk about the geopolitical calculus without acknowledging the human cost, because the numbers behind the strategy are people. Reports are emerging of a girls' school struck in southern Iran, caught in the crossfire of exchanges happening across borders. Civilian casualties in Israeli cities continue to mount. These are not statistics inside a geopolitical framework. They are the actual weight of what is being decided by governments and generals far removed from the rubble. There is something deeply important in that contrast. Leaders calculate deterrence and leverage and messaging. And somewhere beneath all of that calculation, a school is gone.
You can see here the site of a direct impact in Tel Aviv. First responders are currently digging through the debris of the building behind me. They just pulled 2 civilians out. There were a number of injuries at this location, but the ongoing ballistic missile fire is making it incredibly difficult for these first responders to look for survivors, because every time the siren goes off, they have to rush into a nearby shelter and get underground. But you see here the massive amount of destruction to this building, a residential block, and they are bringing dogs in. There are still firefighters on the scene putting out the blaze inside the building, and they're using megaphones to call out to see if there are any survivors still trapped under the debris. This is the most significant impact since the war erupted early this morning with the Israeli strikes and American strikes against Iran, where we can confirm Iran's Supreme Leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, was killed along with 40 top leaders from the Islamic regime.
So where does this go from here? The Gulf states face a genuine fork in the road. They can align more openly with Washington and risk becoming permanent targets in Iran's strategic framework. They can attempt to negotiate de-escalation and risk appearing weak or disloyal to American partners. Or they can watch their economies absorb the damage while trying to hold every relationship simultaneously, hoping the storm passes before the cost becomes unbearable.